What up, everyone? This is Mr. Lord Dark Professor Dark Joker with this week's video. And this week will be an edition of Fiction Fight Night. And this one will be a three-way fight between Ancalagon the Black from Lord of the Rings, Balerion the Black Dread from A Song of Ice and Fire, and Acnologia the Dragon King from Fairy Tale. Basically, these are the three black dragons. They are the most powerful dragons within their respective franchises, well, that we know of, at least, especially in the case of Balerion. But yeah, so I'm gonna go over different stuff, like the histories, the abilities of, the sizes that I know of each dragon, and and go over who I think will win in a fight between these three. With all that being said, on with the video. And Calagon the Black. So he debuted in the Silmarillion, of course, written by the great author J.R.R. Tolkien. And he was created sometime before First Age 510 by Morgoth. Of course, those who know who Morgoth is, he was basically he's the Lord of the Rings equivalent to Satan. He was Sauron's master. And so Calagon was the largest dragon in Middle Earth history. And so, thing he's most famous for is fighting in the War of Wrath in FA 587. And he was killed by the half elf Earendil. And his fall from the sky when he died crushed the three volcanoes of Thangorodrim. That is how big he was. Now, his exact size is not given. There are various theories as to how big he is. He's probably I'm fairly confident he's the biggest dragon amongst these three, but he was huge. He crushed three volcanoes when he fell. That is a big freaking dragon. So he must have had a lot of physical strength and could just wreck villages and armies, as was his purpose. That was Morgoth's purpose in creating him. You know, basically, like Trogdor Bear. Burn the day to the countryside. Burn the day to the people. Anyway, so yeah, and Calgon, a very cool dragon that I would. Oh man, that'd be a dragon I would like to see on screen. Balerion the Black Dread. So he's really mainly describing some of the the in-universe history books that are sold to, I guess, in the real world as different books, like A World of Ice and Fire, you know that's like the big one, with Balerion. There's a few other ones I'm pretty sure he appears in. But so he was born before or during 114 BC or before conquest, like Aegon's conquest. Now, by the time of Aegon's conquest, he was the last living dragon to be born in the Valyria freehold. And amongst his riders included Aenar the Exile Targaryen, um, Aegon the First Targaryen, aka the Conqueror, Maegor the First Targaryen, aka Maegor the Cruel, Arya Targaryen, I'll get to her in a little bit, and Viserys the First Targaryen, the Young King, which those who know Viserys the First, that's the king that Patty Constantine played in House of the Dragon. So Viserys was the last rider for Balerion. And so Balerion's size was estimated to be between 100 to 200 meters long and a wingspan of 138 to 160 meters. And basically, it's believed that that Balerion was used to make the Iron Throne. Basically that Aegon had Balerion make it by melting the swords of Aegon the Conqueror's enemies. And now, as far as Arya, this relates to kind of how he died. So he fled to. So Arya tried to claim him, and I guess Balerion's willpower won over her. I guess so. Balerion was basically in control. Arya wasn't. So basically, Balerion went back to Valyria, because I guess he was homesick or something, and Ariel was riding him, and they were missing for a while. I believe it was like a year, a little over a year, and then when they returned to Westeros, so Balerion was wounded by whatever the heck is in Valyria. Like, there's probably some weird demonic stuff going on that happened in Valyria that related to why the Targaryens left and all the other Dragon Lords got wiped out. Because the Targaryens were a minor house there. Like, they were a minor house in Valyria, but with them being the last Dragon Lords, they were the top dogs. And of course, Arya, she died a very tragic death. Like, that basically her death was so gruesome and tragic that basically it was made illegal to travel to Valeria. That basically, if you went there, you were not allowed back in. Like, and you were told not because of whatever's in there. Like, there is something in Valeria, like something evil and probably demonic. Like, there's theories that probably is connected to, like, basically the seven who are one. Like, I've seen that theory. And, it could be something involving the Great Other or R'hllor. Who knows? Anyway, but Balerion is the biggest dragon that we know of. Like, we don't know, but with the Targaryens being a minor house on Valyria, it is of course possible that the dragons in Valyria, that some of them were bigger than Balerion, just because the Targaryens were a minor house and, well, they were more major houses. I don't know any of their names, like, of the other houses, like of Dragon Lords. Of course, you have the Valarians and Celtigars who were not Dragon Lords, who, like, were other families that left. But the other Dragon Lord families, I don't know their names, so I don't know how big their dragons were. But I imagine if they were more important than the Targaryens, that their dragons probably were bigger than Balerion. But as far as the dragons that we know about, Balerion's the biggest one, and he's a freaking big dragon. Like, we saw Vagar, how big she was in House of the Dragon, especially in the season one finale. Like, in compared to Lucerys's dragon. Yeah, Balerion's bigger than Vagar, like he was. So yeah, and obviously that means he has a lot of physical strength as well. Acnologia the Dragon King. So he debuted in Fairy Tail Chapter 251. So, like, during the Tenru Island arc, in the manga. And so originally Acnologia was a human. Now his name is unknown. What his name as a human was, but he became a dragon slayer in order to wipe out the dragons. The reason so basically his family, a lot of his village was killed by dragons. And it was around when the festival of the Dragon King was going on, so that's like the big war between you had two factions of dragons. You had the dragons that wanted to just eat the humans, and then the ones that wanted coexistence with humans. And then you had, dragon slayers getting involved with, of course, Irene Belsarion being the first dragon slayer. And, yeah, dragon slayers, you had humans getting that. And then some of the humans turned on a lot of the dragons, started killing some of the dragons on their side. And so the doctor, who we know as Acnologia, basically took the name of of the dragon that lived in the village he was in, who was called Acnologia, took that dragon's name and just started killing all these dragons. Like, basically wiped out that race. Like, basically the only so basically you had, like, of course you had the five dragon slayers who were sent to the future. Their dragons went inside them. Now four of them, they were basically gonna die. They were basically about to die due to Acnologia's attacks, and basically once they were outside of their dragon slayers, they were gonna die. And of course, Ignil, that was not the case. Ignil was actually still alive. Then he had his big fight with Acnologia, which, gosh, that is a great fight. Ignil versus Acnologia, that is one of the best dragon versus dragon fights ever. Anyway, now how Acnologia became a dragon? Well, so let's start explaining Slayers. So Slayers, where it's a Dragon Slayer, God Slayer, or Devil Slayer, so they can eat the element that their magic, is for. So obviously, Natsu being a Fire Dragon Slayer, he can eat fire. Um, Gray, since he's an Ice Devil Slayer, he can eat ice. Gajeel, he's a metal dragon slayer. He can eat metal. Wendy's a sky dragon slayer, so she can eat air. Um, let's see. You have Sting is a white dragon slayer, so he can eat basically anything that's colored white. And Rogue is a shadow dragon slayer, so basically he can eat like black stuff. He can eat shadows and stuff. And Lax is lightning dragon slayer. He can eat lightning. Cobra is or Eric is a poison dragon, so he can eat poison. And so that's how dragon they can eat their elements. And of course, God Slayers they could do that too. They can eat their element. It's interesting with Slayers. And of course, Dragon Slayers are the main ones we see. And and basically one of the risks that can come with being a Dragon Slayer is that if you use that power too much, with you can become a Dragon Slayer. You just turn to a dragon. That's what happened with to Irene, which is why basically she was pregnant for a very long time with Urza. And so with Acnologia, he basically turned to a dragon from using too much, but he still was killing all dragons. And he wants to kill all the dragon slayers too, because they have dragon power. And that's why dragon slayer magic is very rare. And so that's probably why he kills Igneal. And so like basically one of the things with his what he can eat. So due to how much dragon he soaked in dragon's blood, killed so many dragons, he became highly resistant to basically all forms of magic, and he can eat all magic. So he's actually able to fire an Etherion blast. An Etherion is so powerful, it can basically wipe out a continent or entire nation. Like it can, like it is, Etherion is one of the most powerful attacks in anime. It's not Dragon Ball powerful because Dragon Ball attacks, that's a whole other thing. Etherions, they're pretty powerful. They could wipe out an entire nation. Like it makes a nuke look weak. That is how powerful an Etherion. Like nukes are obviously deadly, and Etherion is something else. That is why that it's an attack that the council has access to, which has access to it does not like to use and has really only used it once, and of course it failed. The Tower of Heaven arc, which is a great arc. Now in his dragon form, the only thing that can hurt him is Dragon Slayer magic and other dragons. So a lot of like physical attacks like arrows, swords and stuff, spears that you can see some other dragons get hurt by, well, like Ancalagon um and Balerion, those two can be hurt by physical attacks. While it's very difficult, they can still be hurt. Whereas Acnologia cannot. Now, one of the spells that he cannot damage is Fairy Sphere. So, which is how a lot of people on Timber Island were able to not get wiped out by the Etherion blast. That's the only reason they were able to survive. And now they were stuck in time for like 7 years. And that's also why Fairy Sphere is used to trap him, while the Dragon Slayers are fighting his human form in like within the rift in time. Now his main weakness is motion sickness. And that's due to him being a Dragon Slayer because, you know, basically the body of a dragon and the body of a human is so different that a dragon's power being inside of a human causes some equilibrium issues. That's why, Natsu gets motion sickness. Basically, it's why eventually all the Dragon Slayers get it after a little bit. And, And yeah, basically, and the reason like Acnologia is a dragon is because well, he didn't have like the some. So what thing happens with the other five dragon slayers, like the ones that are sent into the future, their dragons go inside them partly so they can fight Acnologia. Other reasons so they can like bred some like basically some antibodies whatever to basically make it to where there's basically it's all basically there's like literally almost 0% chance, not a 0% chance, but very close to 0% chance that they would turn to dragons. Now, obviously, too late to help Irene and Acnologia. But yeah, but motion sickness, he's a dragon slayer. So it was just so funny how they use motion sickness to try and kill him. Like so when Gray and Juvia use like their magic to like create a boat on waves to like use motion sickness to get the Dragon Slayer's opening to attack actively. It was so freaking funny. I was like, you beat it with motion sickness. That's freaking funny. Now let's go into who actually wins. So Ancalagon, I'm fairly confident is the biggest of the three. Acnologia, I'm pretty sure he's the smallest. Like his size is not given, but I'm pretty sure he's smaller than Balerion. Now his scales though, due to the fact that Ancalagon and Balerion can be hurt by some form of physical attacks, while very difficult to do that, they can't be hurt. Acnologia cannot. So obviously his scales have a higher defense than Ancalagon's and Balerion's. And Ancalagon, he can eat the fire breath of Ancalagon and Balerion. And that can help him replenish his magic. And and basically, of course, he can fire at the Ethereon Blast and other forms of high powerful breath. So, yeah, at a higher like power level than Ancalagon and Balerion can, I think it's safe to say Acnologia wins, and it's not even close. And that's it. Did y'all agree with my findings in this fight? Do you agree that Acnologia would win? Do you think Ancalagon will win? Or do you think Balerion will win? Where you agree, disagree, you can put all that in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. And look forward to the next video.